The night before I was due to fly home, my ex sent me a picture of Chloe at an OB/GYN clinic. The text read, "Ethan, are you out of your mind? How could you let Chloe take enhancement pills while she's pregnant? Now, she's in the hospital from overstimulation. The contractions were too strong. She lost the baby." I stared at the photo, a cold fury rising in me. The damn baby and the drugs had nothing to do with me. I grabbed Ashley's arm and dragged her into a restroom at the airport. I had a fire to put out. While I was putting out, I freed one hand and typed a message to Chloe. "Let's get a divorce." Her reply was instant. I roll my eyes. It means what it says. "Chloe, you're insane." I turned off the screen and didn't reply. There's nothing to say to someone who thinks you're insane. 1. My phone had vibrated in my pocket just as I arrived at the airport. My ex-girlfriend's name, Dr. Sarah Jenkins, lit up the screen. "Ethan." Sarah's voice was tight with an anger she couldn't suppress. Are you out of your mind? How could you let Chloe take enhancement pills while she's pregnant?" My mind went blank for a second. I thought I'd misheard. "What? Don't play dumb. Chloe was just admitted to my hospital. The overstimulation caused intense contractions. She lost the baby." Sarah's voice trembled with rage. "Ethan, I know you two play rough, but there has to be a line. She was pregnant. Is this something a human being does?" My knuckles turned white as I gripped the phone. A vicious fire shot straight to my head. "Sarah, are you sure it was Chloe? You didn't mistake her for someone else? I see her on my social media feed every day. You think I wouldn't recognize her?" Sarah, furious and frantic, sent a photo. It was blurry, taken from a candid angle, but clear enough. Outside the OB/GYN consultation room, Chloe was slumped in a chair, a black trench coat draped over her. Her face was pale, her brow furrowed in pain. In that instant, the faint, self-deceiving ember of hope I'd been nursing inside me was extinguished with a final hiss. I stared at the photo, trying to calm the storm inside me. "Ethan, say something." Sarah pressed from the other end. I took a deep breath and hung up. I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. Beside me, Ashley looked at me with concern, her voice soft. "What's wrong, Ethan? Did something happen?" I looked at her young, pretty face, which bore a slight resemblance to Chloe's. The violent rage in my chest roared back to life, threatening to explode. I grabbed her wrist, my grip a little too tight. "It's nothing," I said, my voice dark. "Just some business to take care of." I pulled her toward the handicap-accessible restroom nearby. I had a fire to put out. The lock clicked shut. In a cramped space, I pressed Ashley against the wall. She let out a small whimper, but didn't resist. After a brutal conquest, I freed one hand and pulled out my phone. Fueled by that same cold fury, I quickly typed a message to Chloe. "Let's get a divorce." Her reply was almost instantaneous, a string of question marks. Without breaking my rhythm, I rolled my eyes and kept typing mercilessly. "It means what it says. You're insane." I smirked, turned off the screen, and tossed the phone onto the sink counter. I didn't reply. There really was nothing left to say to someone who called me insane, cheated on me, and then framed me for losing her lover's child. From the restroom to the departure lounge, my face was a thundercloud. Ashley followed behind me, silently fixing her slightly disheveled hair and clothes, not daring to ask another question. After all, I had just locked her in a bathroom and given her a rough, punishing fucking. I opened my laptop and drafted a divorce settlement. Prenuptial assets would remain separate. Postnuptial, most of what I'd earned in the past few years had been spent on her in this household. If I really did the math, I wouldn't come out ahead. So screw it. A clean 50-50 split. I was in no mood to fight over money. I sent the agreement to Chloe's email with a single line. "Sign it. Let's make this clean." Almost immediately, my phone rang. The name Chloe flashed on the screen. I ignored it. After it went to voicemail, she called again, relentless. I answered but said nothing. "Ethan, what the hell is wrong with you?" Chloe's voice had its usual impatience, laced with a barely perceptible weakness. I watched the planes taking off and landing in the distance, my tone flat. "Nothing's wrong. Chloe, I'm not into your kind of games, and I sure as hell don't want to play dad to some other guy's kid. Let's get a divorce." The other end of the line went silent, filled only by the sound of her ragged breathing. After several seconds, she seemed to find her voice, sharp with disbelief. "You had me investigate it? Does it matter?" I scoffed. "You know whose kid it was better than I do. And as for how you lost it, you know that even better." "Ethan!" she shrieked, the sound of someone cornered and exposed. "Have you forgotten your place? Without my family, the Andersons, would you be where you are today? You're nothing without me." "Oh," I said, "then I guess I'm just not good enough for you. Read the agreement. If there are no issues, sign it." "You bastard." "Yep, I'm a bastard," I said, too tired to argue. Get some rest. You need to recover so you can go find the guy who actually got you pregnant. Don't keep him waiting. With that, I hung up and turned off my phone. Finally, some peace and quiet. 2. When I got home, Chloe was already out of the hospital. I hadn't expected that. I figured she'd be milking her stay for all it was worth. She was sitting on the sofa, dressed in a loose silk robe. Her face was still pale, drained of color, but her eyes were sharp, pinning me where I stood. She was clearly waiting for me. As I got closer, she frowned, her tone laced with displeasure. Ethan, what is this psychotic episode? The opening shot was an accusation. A divorce? You have the nerve to bring up divorce? Even if we were getting one, I'd be the one to file. Who do you think you are? I poured myself a glass of water, ignoring her. She was angry. My filing for divorce had wounded her precious ego. I set my suitcase aside, refusing to engage with her anger. Did you read the agreement? I asked calmly. Any objections to the asset division? What's ours is ours. What's joint gets split 50-50. If there are no problems, sign it. We can get it done at the courthouse sooner rather than later. Chloe shot to her feet, her chest heaving. Ethan, you're really serious about this, aren't you? I'm telling you, you can still take it back. Don't wait until I actually agree. Then it'll be too late for you to come crawling back to me. I'm warning you, don't test my limits with this, or you'll regret it. I met her gaze, looking directly into the beautiful face now twisted with rage. My eyes didn't waver. Chloe, I am serious. Just sign the damn thing. My calm stare seemed to throw her off. A flash of confusion crossed her face, but it was quickly consumed by a greater fury. Why? Is it because you found someone else? I almost laughed out loud. What? Is this a case of do as I say, not as I do? She had probably never heard me speak to her like that. Her eyes went wide. She raised her hand to do something, but my next words froze her in place. Chloe, you're the one who cheated. You're the one who got pregnant with another man's child. Not only did you get pregnant with someone else's kid, but you lost it because you were playing too rough. Her face changed dramatically. Ethan, she screeched, you really investigated me? Do you not have even the most basic trust in me? I was truly in awe. Is this a try not to laugh challenge? Because I lose. Sarah Jenkins is an OB-GYN, remember? Do you need me to send you the picture she took of you sitting outside the maternity ward? She was speechless for a moment, then resorted to arguing. How can you be so sure the baby wasn't yours? I was exasperated. Chloe, when do we ever not use a condom? Besides, you were 3 months pregnant. We haven't even had sex in the last 3 months. For over a month before that, we didn't do anything because the size you bought was too small and wouldn't fit. You forgot. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the baby was mine. You screwed around with someone else and got my child killed. What makes you think I would ever tolerate that? Chloe's face instantly shifted to that familiar, condescending sneer. Ethan, have you forgotten your place? Don't forget, you're just the husband who married in. My family gave you the life you have now. You should know your role and be grateful. For some things, it's better for everyone if you just turn a blind eye. I nodded. So I should be grateful. Watch you have another man's baby and then happily raise it as my own. That's a blessing I can't afford. So let's get a divorce. Realizing her arguments were useless, Chloe flew into a rage. Fine, I did cheat. But you've always known there were other people in my life, haven't you? Why did I cheat? Because you're useless. You couldn't keep me. Why else do you think the moment Julian Vance came back to the country, all he had to do was crook his finger and I went running? Do you have any idea how amazing Julian is? He's 1,000, 1,000,000 times better than you. I must have been blind to choose you back then. I waited quietly for her to finish venting, then held up a hand. You're right. You're right about everything. You never should have chosen me. Now I'm giving you a chance to correct your mistake. Sign the papers. Divorce. My composure utterly infuriated her. She was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Fine, let's get a divorce. Who's afraid of who? We'll go to the courthouse tomorrow. Ethan, without the Anderson family, you're nothing. Get ready to live on the streets. I couldn't be bothered to waste another breath on her. I turned and walked into the guest room, closing the door and shutting out her screaming. Ethan, whoever doesn't show up for the divorce tomorrow is a son of a bitch, she shrieked hysterically from the other side of the door. 3. The next day, I was up early. After printing the divorce agreement, I went straight to the kitchen. I took ingredients from a fridge and, out of habit, made a full breakfast of all her favorite foods. It was only when the entire meal was laid out on the dining table that I snapped back to reality. God damn it. 4 years of marriage, and serving her had become muscle memory. It would be a shame to throw it out, especially after all the work. I decided to consider it a farewell meal. Just as I finished setting up, Chloe came into the dining room. She was wearing a form-fitting dress that was both innocent and seductive, accentuating her curves. She looked like she was heading out for a date, not a divorce. Her eyes landed on the table, and a smug smile crept onto her lips. She sat down gracefully, staring straight at me. "Humph. Don't think making a big breakfast like this is going to make me forgive you. Unless you feed it to me, then maybe we can make up." I didn't say anything. Chloe probably thought I was trying to reconcile, just like all the times before. I pulled out the divorce papers and placed them in front of her. "The agreement is ready. Take a look. If there are no issues, sign it." The smugness on Chloe's face froze instantly. She stared at me in disbelief. "Ethan, this breakfast, it's a farewell meal." I cut her off. "Sign it. The sooner we get this over with, the better for everyone." Her face darkened completely, and she squeezed the words out through her teeth. "Ethan, I'll admit I was wrong this time, okay? I'll be more careful and make sure he wears a condom from now on. It won't happen again." I raised an eyebrow. "Whether he wears one or not is your business. It has nothing to do with me. We're about to be divorced." "Ethan," she slammed her hand on the table. "Don't push your luck. The fact that I'm even willing to sit here and talk to you is me giving you a chance." I nodded and slid a pen toward her. "Thanks for the chance. Sign." Chloe was completely cornered. Her face was ashen as she snatched the agreement. Without even looking at it, she scribbled her name at the bottom and threw the pen down. "Ethan, I hope you don't regret this. You are nothing without me." Good thing she didn't read it. Otherwise, we'd have been here all day haggling. I carefully collected the signed papers, a huge weight lifting from my shoulders. "The courthouse opens at 9. If we leave now, we'll be right on time." Chloe was trembling with rage. She violently swept the entire breakfast off the table. It crashed to the floor, a mess of food and shattered porcelain. In the past, I would have immediately bent down to clean it up. But today, not my fucking problem. I was getting divorced. This house wasn't even mine. Every extra second I spent here felt disgusting. I kicked a broken plate out of my way and turned to pack my few belongings. Chloe watched me calmly emerge with my suitcase and spat out a final threat. "You've got balls, Ethan. I'll be waiting for the day you come crawling back to me on your knees." I don't know about balls, but I knew I was never looking back. Chloe, in her sky-high heels, didn't wait for me. She got in her car and sped off first. 4. When I arrived at the courthouse, Chloe was already there. She wasn't alone. A fair-skinned man stood beside her. Julian Vance, Chloe's lover, her old flame, returned from abroad. He stood next to Chloe, one arm wrapped around her waist. When Chloe saw me, her expression flickered with discomfort, and she tried to remove his hand. But Julian only tightened his grip, pulling her closer to him. Then, he looked at me with a defiant smirk. I remained expressionless and walked straight into the courthouse. As I passed them, I couldn't resist flipping him the middle finger. "Ethan." Chloe broke away from Julian and blocked my path, her voice filled with an inexplicable anger. "Are you even a man? Some other guy has his arm around your wife, and you have nothing to say?" I found it almost funny. "Say what? Congratulations. May you two whores live happily ever after. Or should I thank him for taking the trash off my hands?" Chloe's face went white. She raised her hand to slap me, but I easily caught her wrist, my grip just strong enough to keep her from breaking free. "Chloe, let's not waste each other's time." Julian stepped forward, positioning himself in front of Chloe with the air of a victor. "Ethan, don't be so crude. You worked so hard to get into the Anderson family. Why make things so ugly? Besides, it's not like Chloe actually had the baby and made you raise it. Can't you just turn a blind eye? Without Chloe, you're nothing. Be smart. Leave yourself some dignity." I looked at him and smiled faintly. Dignity is for people who have shame. Do you two qualify? I hope when you find yourself in a situation like this, you can be gracious and leave yourself some dignity. Julian's face changed. I ignored them and walked into the main hall to take a number. Behind me, I heard Julian's enraged voice. "Ethan, you son of a bitch, just you wait. I gave you a chance." The glass doors of the courthouse cut off his yelling. The hall was quiet, with only a dozen or so people waiting. I took my number, found a seat in the corner, and closed my eyes. Chloe and Julian came in soon after. Some people who saw them enter began to whisper. They had probably seen our argument outside. "The guy just screams the other man. Look at that smug look on his face. I swear, I want to slap him. I can't stand guys like that. Homewreckers." Julian heard the whispers, and his face turned ugly. The hand that had been on Chloe's waist loosened unconsciously, his eyes darting around as he tried to avoid the curious and contemptuous stares. Are homewreckers this brazen now, daring to follow them right into the courthouse? You can tell the woman's no good, and the guy's not much better. A perfect match. I hope they lock it down and don't come out to ruin anyone else's life. Julian finally snapped. He jerked his head up and shouted in the direction of the whispers, his voice shrill with agitation. What the hell are you talking about? Who's a homewrecker? Who ruined a family? In his haste to clear his name, he subconsciously pointed at Chloe, the words tumbling out of his mouth without a thought. It was her. She's the one who seduced me. She was the one in an unhappy marriage, crying to me every day, throwing herself at me. Is it my fault that I'm successful and desirable? The entire hall fell silent. Every gaze, including mine, was fixed on Chloe. The blood drained from Chloe's face. She turned her head in disbelief, staring daggers at Julian. Her beautiful eyes were first filled with shock, then a towering rage and the sharp sting of betrayal. Julian Vance. Chloe's voice was ice cold, sharp and trembling. Say that again. Who was it that came crawling back from overseas like a dog, waiting for me outside my office every single day? Who was it that texted me in the middle of the night, saying he couldn't forget me, saying Ethan was a useless piece of trash who didn't deserve me? She was completely ignited. She didn't care about dignity anymore. She just wanted to tear apart the man in front of her who had turned on her in an instant. When we were screwing, you didn't say I was seducing you. When you were spending my money, you didn't complain. Now that there's trouble, you want to wash your hands of it and throw all the filth on me. Julian Vance, are you even a fucking man? Julian, caught off guard by Chloe's verbal barrage, turned red, then white, stammering a defense. Chloe, you're lying. It was you. I'm lying. Chloe had nothing left to lose. She sneered, her voice low but clear enough for everyone to hear. Do you need me to pull up our chat history? All your ass-kissing messages? Or the transaction records of you finding every excuse in the book to get money from me? You arrogant gold digger. Aren't you so amazing? 1,000,000 times better than Ethan? What are you without me? Besides a better degree than Ethan and a better family background once upon a time, what else do you have to show for yourself besides your pretty boy act? If you weren't such a good ass-kisser, do you think I would have even looked at you? Shut up. Julian, humiliated, instinctively reached out to cover Chloe's mouth. Before his hand could touch her, she slapped it away with fierce force. The crisp sound of the slap echoed in the silent hall. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. Julian trembled with rage, pointing at both me and Chloe. The whispers from the crowd grew louder, the pointing and staring like needles on their skin. Wow, so he's just a freeloader with an attitude. That woman has terrible taste, leaving her husband for a piece of work like that. One's in it for the sex, the other for the money. Neither of them are any good. A perfect match. Julian was completely panicked. He looked at Chloe's nearly insane expression, then at the undisguised contempt from the onlookers, and his face went pale. He tried to grab Chloe's arm, his voice softening into a plea. Chloe, don't be like this. Let's go outside and talk, okay? There are too many people here. Enough. Now you're worried about your reputation. Chloe shoved him away, interrupting him sharply. Her eyes were filled with disgust and scorn, as if she were seeing him clearly for the very first time. Julian Vance, I must have been blind. At least Ethan has the guts to own his actions. And you, the second there's trouble, you act like a coward, pushing all the blame onto a woman. You're just a spineless wimp. A pretty boy. I'm telling you, we're done. And as for all your dirty little secrets, just you wait. I'll settle them with you one by one. With that, she took a deep, shuddering breath and turned to me. Her chest heaved, her eyes a complex storm of emotions. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but I just met her gaze calmly and pointed to the cue display. It's our turn. My voice was devoid of any emotion. She bit her lip, straightened her back, and, clinging to her last shred of dignity, walked toward the counter first. Her silhouette seemed impossibly fragile and desolate. 5. The divorce proceedings hadn't even started, and the happy couple had already put on a public spectacle of tearing each other apart. A cracked pot for a cracked lid. They really were a perfect match. Julian tried to follow, but an older woman who had seen enough spat in his direction. Have some shame, young man. They're getting a divorce. What business is it of yours to follow them in? Julian froze, his face turning the color of a beet. He could neither advance nor retreat, forced to watch as Chloe and I walked to the window that would end our marriage. The process was quick. The red marriage certificates were exchanged for dark red divorce certificates. 4 years of marriage, over. Chloe followed behind me, her steps unsteady. She looked at my back and finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Her voice was raspy, laced with something that sounded like regret. Ethan. I stopped, but didn't turn around. Take care of yourself, Chloe. With that, I walked straight to the sport car parked by the curb. The door opened, and a beaming Ashley jumped out. She threw herself into my arms like a joyful bird, her arms wrapped tightly around my waist. Ashley tilted her head up, her eyes sparkling, her voice sickly sweet. "Ethan, honey, congratulations. Congratulations on getting your freedom back." She deliberately raised her voice, ensuring the devastated Chloe on the steps could hear every word. I ruffled Ashley's hair, my peripheral vision catching Chloe. She was still standing there frozen, clutching the divorce certificate. Her face was even paler than before, completely bloodless. She stared blankly in our direction. Beside her stood a furious Julian, trying to approach her again. He seemed to want to say something to salvage the situation, but Chloe violently shook off his supporting hand. Julian lost his footing and tumbled clumsily down the steps. Pathetic. But Chloe didn't seem to see him. Her gaze, like a poison needle, was fixed on me and Ashley. I had no interest in watching the rest of this train wreck. I put my arm around Ashley's waist and prepared to get in the car. "Ethan," Chloe's voice rang out again, sharp and trembling. How dare you? Get with Ashley. You planned this, didn't you? You two were together all along. That's why you were in such a hurry to divorce me. What right do you have to accuse me of cheating? You're no saint yourself." I paused but still didn't turn back. But Ashley turned around, a triumphant, innocently cruel smile on her face. "Sister, remember what you said when you got caught cheating? You said if you had a problem with it, you could both just play your own games. I was there. I heard it crystal clear. Besides, Ethan and I are much cleaner than you two. At least we didn't end up with a baby. Play your own games." Chloe had spat those words in a fit of rage during our first major fight after I discovered her and Julian's affair. It was filled with her usual arrogance and contempt for me. She never imagined I would take her seriously and act on it, and that I would do so with her own sister. Ashley's words were like a sharp slap, hitting Chloe so hard she almost stumbled. You too." She pointed a trembling finger at me, then at Ashley, too furious to form a complete sentence. It was a double betrayal she couldn't comprehend. "Ashley, how could you? I'm your sister. He was your brother-in-law." "Sister? Brother-in-law?" Ashley tilted her head. "Did you think about him being my brother-in-law when you were cheating?" "Sister, I suggest you go home and get some rest. The divorce is final. What's the point of all this? You only lost a baby that shouldn't have existed and a husband you already despised. But I found love, sister, and you're not losing out either. You'll be getting a new brother-in-law very soon." Chloe's entire face twisted in a mask of fury. She had probably never been so humiliated in her life, especially from a backstabbing by her own sister. "Ashley, have you no shame?" Chloe shrieked, charging down the steps, not even caring when her high heel twisted under her. I was done listening to their drama. I pulled Ashley into the car. Before Chloe could even get close, we hit the gas and were gone. 6. The sports car sped away from the courthouse. In the rearview mirror, that world faded into the distance. I held the steering wheel with one hand. The other was tightly gripped by Ashley. Her fingertips were cold with excitement. "Ethan, where are we going now?" Her voice was seductive. "Want to go celebrate?" "Celebrate? How?" I pulled my hand back, lit a cigarette, and rolled down the window. Ashley gave a smug smile and leaned her soft body against me. She whispered in my ear, "I bought a very sexy swimsuit." A jolt went through me. I tossed the cigarette. I shifted gears and floored it. We arrived at Ashley's villa. The swimsuit Ashley mentioned could hardly be called a swimsuit. It was nearly transparent mesh, held together by pitifully thin straps. On her young, full body, it was less about covering up and more about deliberate provocation. By the villa's private pool, she dove into the water like a mermaid, then emerged, dripping wet, to drape herself over my lap. Water dripped from the ends of her hair, her gaze smoldering. "Babe, you want me?" I swirled the drink in my glass and didn't answer. My phone buzzed on the table, Chloe's name flashing on the screen. I silenced it and placed it face down. Ashley glanced at it, a knowing smile on her lips as her hands began to wander. She must regret it. Too bad it's too late. Her tone was filled with a childish sense of victory. I held her head, my voice gentle. "Don't bring her up right now. You'll ruin the mood." Ashley took the hint and shut up, choosing to express her celebration in a more direct way. The phone continued to vibrate on the lounge chair, the screen flashing on and off. Ashley's wet arms wrapped around me, her voice muffled. "Just ignore her." The phone's vibration finally stopped, but just seconds later, it started again, stubborn as ever. This time, it was Ashley's phone. The name jumping on the screen was also Chloe. Ashley, panting, glanced at it. A flash of annoyance crossed her face, which quickly turned into a mischievous grin. She reached for the phone. Before I could react, she answered the call. Changing her position, she deliberately put it on speakerphone. Ashley held the phone between us, a finger to her lips in a should gesture. "Sis," she began, her voice breathy and trembling as if from strenuous exercise. "What's up?" "I'm at the gym right now." From the other end, "Ashley, where are you? Is Ethan with you? Let me talk to him." Now, immediately, as I moved inside her, Ashley struggled to keep her tone steady. He's a little busy right now." "Heh, sis, you two are divorced now. Don't be thinking about my man anymore." "Okay." Ashley suddenly let out a short, sharp gasp. Her finger accidentally hit the end call button. The world was suddenly silent, save for the lapping of the pool water and our ragged breaths. Ashley looked at the dark screen, stunned for a second, then broke into a triumphant smile. She heard. She definitely heard, she said, tilting her head up and raising an eyebrow at me. I looked at her and said nothing, simply burying myself in my work. I carried her into the bedroom and tossed her onto the soft, massive bed. Ashley wrapped herself around me obediently, initiating a kiss. The curtains weren't fully drawn, and the afternoon sun slanted in, casting a line across our entangled bodies. This time was much quieter, just the primitive collision and entanglement of flesh. I don't know how much time passed before everything finally settled. Ashley was exhausted, curled up beside me in a deep sleep, a satisfied blush still on her cheeks. I pulled Ashley closer into my arms and closed my eyes. I'd sleep first and deal with everything else later. 7. Living with Ashley was far easier than I had imagined. She was young, passionate. Most importantly, she knew exactly what she wanted and made no secret of her dependence on and admiration for me. This greatly satisfied my male ego. The company under my name had been in motion since the moment Chloe betrayed me. I began quietly planning to acquire parts of her company's assets and business. Her focus had slipped when Julian Vance returned. The two of them were too busy with their affair, offloading a huge amount of their international business onto me. Now, those clients were steadily flocking to me. The divorce agreement also included divisions that, luckily, she hadn't bothered to scrutinize, or would have gotten a much smaller piece of the pie. Chloe thought I was still the kept husband living on her charity, oblivious to the fact that I had already grown my own wings. Once she emerged from her drama with Julian, she would soon realize what she had lost. One day, I was in my office handling some documents when Ashley burst in, her face alight with an excitement she couldn't contain. "Babe, the company Chloe's in charge of is in trouble." I raised an eyebrow. I hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. I took the file from Ashley's hands. Chloe's company was entangled in several bad projects. Problems with their partners had created a strain on their cash flow. The shaky financials were now affecting their applications for bank loans. It was like a row of dominoes falling. The most critical factor was that outstanding talent, the one who was 1,000, a million times better than me. He had been placed in a key position in the company and had been skimming quite aggressively. His appetite was even bigger than I had imagined. Now that he and Chloe had split and the company was in crisis, Chloe's first move was to send Julian to prison. I put down the file, a cold smile playing on my lips. Maybe me taking the company's lucky cat and money tree on my way out had accelerated the process. Chloe was now swamped, desperately trying to solve the crisis. Her options were to either admit defeat and let the Anderson Group inject capital, which would mean she would be forced to step down, or to sell her personal assets to fill the financial hole. 8. I gave a gentle, unseen push. The crisis at Chloe's company snowballed. The project hollowed out by Julian became the last straw that broke the camel's back. The bank loan was ultimately denied. Chloe's last hope was gone. She had no choice but to bow her head and ask the Anderson family for help. However, the Anderson family was not a monolith. Chloe's arrogance and recklessness in recent years had already caused a lot of dissatisfaction. Now that she had created such a massive mess, the opposing voices within the family gained the upper hand. In the end, the terms of the bailout were extremely harsh. They would inject the capital, but Chloe had to relinquish control of the company and be removed from the core leadership. She would be transferred to a cushy, powerless sinecure to recuperate. For someone as proud as Chloe, this was the ultimate humiliation. She wanted to refuse, but her only other option was to sell her personal assets. A fire sale would mean she'd get rock-bottom prices. It was possible she wouldn't even be able to save the company and would be left with nothing, forced to live off the family trust fund. After much consideration, Chloe accepted the family's terms. The next day, Ashley took office as the new CEO. Life for Julian in prison was even worse. A guy like him, who got by on his face and his charm, was at the very bottom of the food chain in that kind of kill or be killed environment. When Chloe sent him there, she had especially arranged for some extra attention for him to sever all ties. Of course, after Chloe made her arrangements, I made a few of my own. I heard that because of his smooth skin and past arrogance, he quickly became the exclusive plaything of some of the top dogs inside. Resisting only led to more brutal gang beatings. I heard that his perfect white teeth were now all gone. He tried to contact his family for help, but his calls were never answered. Ashley's first act as the new CEO was swift and fiery. With ruthless efficiency, she purged all of Chloe's loyalists. She especially targeted those who had disrespected me or made my life difficult in the past, sparing no one. Her methods were decisive, even carrying a certain youthful ruthlessness that disregarded consequences. I sat in her spacious new office, watching her issue commands from behind the massive desk. It was a stark contrast to the young girl she used to be. It was a huge turn-on. Babe, was I amazing? After dealing with a batch of dismissals, she waved her secretary away. She ran over from behind the desk, barefoot, and climbed right onto my lap. Her arms wrapped around my neck, her eyes shining as she begged for praise. I held her by the waist, my fingers lightly tracing her back. Amazing. But this is just the beginning. Ashley leaned in, her hot breath on my ear, her voice a seductive whisper. So, shouldn't we celebrate today's victory? Her hand began to slide down my body. I chuckled and caught her mischievous hand. Here. Why not? Ashley raised an eyebrow, a challenge in her eyes. This is my territory. I can do whatever I want, wherever I want. As she spoke, she actually started to unbuckle my belt, but I deliberately stayed still, letting her have her way on the large executive chair. I watched her move up and down, her cheeks flushed, her eyes filled with a lust for conquest and possession. Just as we reached the peak of our entanglement, the office door was pushed open without warning. Ms. Anderson, here's an urgent file that needs. The new secretary stood frozen in the doorway, holding a stack of files, staring dumbfounded at the two of us writhing in the executive chair. Ashley let out a short scream and instinctively tried to hide. But I held her tighter, my back shielding her from most of the secretary's view. I suddenly thrust harder. Caught off guard, Ashley's voice changed pitch. I turned my head, my gaze dark and menacing as I stared at the petrified secretary. My voice was laced with an authority that couldn't be questioned. Get out, and knock next time. The secretary's face went white. She scrambled to back out, nearly tripping over her own feet. The door slammed shut. The brief interruption only seemed to excite Ashley more, and she became even wilder. Afterward, we leaned against the chair, our clothes in disarray. Ashley's face was flushed with satisfaction. She giggled. Well, that's great. By tomorrow, the whole company will know that the new CEO and her man were screwing around in the office. I lit a cigarette and blew a careless smoke ring. Even better, let them know who's in charge now. 9. Chloe's recuperation was anything but peaceful. She tried to contact me, bombarding me with calls and texts. The content evolved from initial angry curses to resentful questions, and finally, to tearful pleas. Ethan, you're ruthless. I never knew you were planning this all along. You were with Ashley from the start, weren't you? Just waiting for me to screw up. Ethan, please, just meet me once. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Ethan, help me. You're the only one who can help me now. I looked at the messages on the screen with zero emotion, except for a slight urge to laugh. I blocked her number, but she would just use a different one. Eventually, I set my phone to reject all unknown numbers. The world was quiet for a while. Then Ashley told me Chloe had come directly to the villa. She was stopped by security at the community gate. She looked pathetic, like a stray dog. I walked to the window and looked out. Sure enough, Chloe was standing at the entrance to the community. Her hair was a mess. She kept trying to push past the security guards, peering into the complex, her figure looking exceptionally thin and pitiful. I watched her coldly. Do you want to see her? Ashley hugged me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. No. I turned around, pressing her against the huge, new, full-length mirror, my fingers deftly unbuttoning her blouse. I'd rather look at you. The sunlight outside was scorching, but the glass was cool. In the mirror, Ashley's reflection was ecstatic. Babe, I can see everything so clearly. Chloe seemed to finally realize that she wouldn't get a shred of sympathy from me. She stopped, but news about her still reached me through various channels. The friends who had once orbited her because of her status had all scattered. She sold all her luxury bags, jewelry, and even her favorite sports car, trying to make a comeback. But her few small investments vanished like stones in the sea. Ashley and I held a grand wedding. We invited almost every socialite in the city. Even though the Anderson parents had some reservations about our union, they were familiar with me as a son-in-law, and with Chloe being such a disappointment, they had no choice but to accept it. On our wedding night, on the terrace of our suite, Ashley stood in a priceless custom-made wedding gown, her smile brilliant, her eyes filled with triumph. She leaned against me, looking out at the city lights. "Honey, have you ever stood on a terrace with my sister or your ex while they were wearing a wedding dress?" I squeezed her cheek. "Never." She smiled with satisfaction, her eyes smoldering. "Then shall we give it a try?"